number one, becomes number one, the United States of America. You mark down for malaria, for tuberculosis, for HIV/AIDS. These are things that are the predominance of it is in the developing world. These things are stacked against you, and they're serially correlated. So if you get marked down in one, it tends to reflect itself in many others. I wish we're doing that now with the help of the Clinton Foundation. To ask all of these agencies, how do you rate the country? Some of them don't even come to Guyana. They never do an assessment on the ground. But suddenly you wake up one day and you see your country is rated. So I would like some of you to work with me in doing a due diligence of how these agencies come up with ratings. Last point, Columbia University did an environmental performance index, and we're number 130, I think. The United States is doing better than us. We have less than 2 tons per capita emission. We have 85% of our country is covered with forests, and we are 135. And they're doing so well, 20 tons per capita. Most of the original forest gone. Canada is way ahead of us, although what's happening in Quebec, you wouldn't find that in Guyana. But it's how the indicators are selected. And I guess who pays for the studies too.
Next question. The man at the back in the black jacket, if you can get there, David.
I can, but this person has set up.
All right, you choose.
Thank you. My name is Constantino Casabuenas. I'm an Amerindian working with Oxfam for the last 10 years. I wouldn't say that Oxfam has is left arm raised or the right arm. The reality is we are defining our policy regarding REDD. And what I have heard from the presentations is really good. It's really good in terms of carbon, in terms of people's rights. But the key concern that we have has to do with somehow privatization of carbon and privatization of people's rights. So the specific question we want to make is to what extent the scheme that you have presented here, in that scheme, people's rights have some level of independence or a total level of independence from private investment. In other words, if the model is being used for the profits of transnational companies or for the direct profit of people in such a way that public policies guarantee people's rights independent of what happens with private investments in REDD.
I'm going to ask you to comment first, and then perhaps Tushar Pearson would like to comment afterwards.
I've made it clear that when and if the indigenous people decide to opt in with their forests, that all of the compensation garnered would go back to the indigenous people themselves. We have some large-scale holders of leases in Guyana, logging leases, but they will not get any money from any REDD scheme. The money will go for adaptation purposes, for education, healthcare, some type of infrastructure like the one I mentioned, fiber optic cable. We're looking at a hydropower, which has a limited impact on the basin, has a limited impact, but that could move all in one. By this one project, we can shift all of our electricity from fossil fuel to renewable energy. That's where the resources will go. Some may go to the village economies in the indigenous communities. Some may go to assist small miners, small forestry holders, so they can have, learn about low impact logging or sustainable forestry practices or dealing with mercury, that sort of thing. But none of the money will go to any of the large concession holders that we get. Indigenous people's rights, traditional rights are going to be preserved through the entire forest.
Yes.
would like to say a little on the land rights situation in Guyana. Our indigenous peoples, we have legal title to our lands. It's recognized by law. And our lands are considered as private property. So in the low carbon development strategy also, we have the opportunity. We have the right to opt in or not. And we also recognize free, prior, and informed consent. It's important when we would have all the information that is needed for us to make that decision. So I want to point out there is absolutely no pressure on the indigenous peoples to make any decision. So that is where we are. We have a few other land issues on titling of land, but then our law, the Amendment Act of 2006, there are procedures set out how to deal with those situations. So that is where we are presently.
Do you want the microphone back? And the man at the back in the black jacket, I think, is allowed his moment.
I've got quite a loud voice, I can go without a microphone.
You can, but unfortunately the recording can't cope without the microphone.
Thanks. This is actually a question that's been emailed in by Jeanette Bulkin, who's a postdoctoral fellow in international environmental and human rights at Colby College in Maine in the US. And the question is as follows. It was recently reported that some of the forest in Guyana, including forest that has logging concessions attached to it, has been excluded from the low carbon development strategy. Why is this?
Do you know about that? I'm asking the head of the Forestry Commission if he knows about that. I don't know about that.
Okay, it was reported the low carbon development strategy awareness session on 21st of July 2009 at Georgetown University.
I don't know about it.
Are you from the Forestry Commission?
Yes, he's the head of the Forestry Commission.
Do you know that whether or not that's true?
That is not correct.
It's not correct, apparently. Okay. Yes? Carry on.
But on that point, Janet Bulkin once said, we're allowing these big bad Asian companies to come, and she wrote that we're to denude our forests. And then I saw in an article to The Guardian, she said, we shouldn't be paid any money because there's no pressure on the forest. So you can't believe in both things at the same time. Neither are true. So.